Hi, it's Michelle. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Michelle. I make videos about books. Please hit the subscribe button. It really helps my channel grow. This is part 2 of my best books for 2022. I couldn't do it in one video because I just read too many different genres. So this is going to be thriller, horror, and sci-fi, and I only have 16 books, I think, so a little bit less than romance. Once again, these aren't in any particular order except for my top 3. So let's get started with the ones that I don't own. The first one is Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. I read this for a project with Lexi, and unfortunately I can't tell you a lot about this one, but basically this man wakes up after being kidnapped and he doesn't know what's going on. And that's really all I needed to know, and I gave this book 4 stars initially, but I realized as I was going on throughout my year that I couldn't stop thinking about this book, and I raised it to 5 stars after maybe a month. So absolutely love this one. I'm sorry that I can't tell you a lot about it, but it's better if you go in not knowing. But Blake Crouch has become one of my favorite authors this year. Absolutely love him. The second one is an arc that I read. It actually comes out in the middle of January, so by the time you're seeing this, it should be out in like a week, and that is How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix. Absolutely love this one. I went into this one not knowing anything except that it was written by Grady Hendrix, and basically these adult children find out that their parents die in a car crash and they have to sell their parents' house, but something is happening with the house and it's not necessarily what you would expect, which is what I personally loved about this book so much, is that it wasn't what I was expecting. This was silly and great and kind of scary, and I gave this 5 stars, and I absolutely love this book. Okay, the next ones I have, once again, not in any order, but let's go. The first one is Just Like Mother by Anne Heltzel. Listen, this book is so obvious. Like, you know what's going to happen. I knew what was going to happen, and I'm pretty new to the horror genre, and it did not matter to me. I just felt like it was such a fun ride. Like, I had a great time listening to this. Even though there are so many trigger warnings in this, like, it did not stop me from enjoying any of my time with this. It was just like creepy, fast-paced, so much stuff was going on. But this follows, basically this woman escapes a cult, and then she gets reunited with her long lost cousin or aunt or something. I don't know, it doesn't matter. And then weird shit starts to happen. And that's all I really want to tell you. But I absolutely love this one. I thought it was so good. The next one is going to be on a lot of people's most hated list, and that's completely fine. But that is The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley. Listen, I just had a great time reading this. I read this with my eyes in like one day while also trying to take care of my kids, and I just thought that this was a really great time. But this follows this girl who's coming to Paris to stay with her brother, and her brother is missing, and she's trying to figure out why. Like, where is he? And all of these characters are the absolute worst, and I love when characters are the absolute worst. Like, yeah, it was such a great time. I don't know. I know this is gonna be on people's worst list, and I loved it. The next one is All Good People Here by Ashley Flowers. I think that I am in the minority again with this one, but I absolutely love this one. Ashley Flowers is a podcast host. I don't listen to the podcast, I don't listen to podcasts. But she wrote this novel based on another true crime story, and I don't know if people aren't liking that. Personally, it did not bother me, but you are following 2 separate timelines, one from 1994 and one from 2019, and I loved the ending of this one. Is that another unpopular opinion? Doesn't even matter. The ending of this one, so good. I love the ending so much. This was great. I love this. The next one was very close to making my top 3, like, it's probably number 4, but that's okay. And that is Sundial by Katrina Ward. This is coming out in a video soon, so stay tuned for that. But I absolutely love this. I can't tell you much about this without spoiling it, but basically this woman's daughter is having a hard time, so she takes her to the desert to her childhood home called Sundial, and then basically tells her the story of like how she came to be. Interesting. The writing in this one, amazing. You just have to get into it. There was something wrong with the audiobook. I think the mic was picking up some weird feedback, so this wasn't my favorite audiobook to listen to, but it didn't even matter because I was so engrossed in this story, I could not look away. Sundial is amazing. The next book is Cackle by Rachel Harrison. This is a cozy horror, and I mean like the coziest, but this follows this woman who gets dumped by her asshole boyfriend, and she moves to this super small town and meets this woman who may or may not be a witch, and that's it, that's the plot. And I absolutely love this one. I might reread this every single October. Like, it is just like a warm, cozy blanket for me, and it's a lot of taking down awful men, which I can get behind. The next one is The Measure by Nikki Erlich. Love this one. Love the concept of this one. Love the message of this one, which is silly because it kind of reminds me of The Midnight Library, which I hated, but I love The Measure. Basically, overnight, all these people, I think it's over the age of 21 or 22, get a string, and the string determines how much longer you have left to live. And so people are either deciding whether to look at the string or not and measure it out. And this really worked for me. I absolutely love this one. This will also be in a vlog coming out in 2023. This was a good time for me. The next one is Hidden Pictures by Jason Rekulak. I read this in one single night on sprints with Lexi. We were buddy reading this. I love this one so freaking much. I thought that this was brilliant. But this follows this girl who starts nannying for this boy, and he starts drawing some weird shit. Let me show you. This isn't the weirdest one. Oh, here we go. It's pretty elaborate for like a 5-year-old, and creepy shit starts happening, and the ending of this one was so close to losing me, and then it brought it back right around, and I gave this 5 stars, and I had such a great time reading this one. It was such a ride. The next one is Dead Silence by S.A. Barnes. This is a ghost cruise ship in space. Basically, this crew is out doing their job, and they find this missing spaceship that's been missing for like 25 years. So they decide to go on it and like claim it, say they were the ones that found it, and then some creepy ass shit starts happening. Just like me explaining what's happening is bringing up memories of what happens, and it's wild. This actually scared me. So that's good, right? Like, this actually scared me. I'm scared talking about it right now. What a good one. The next one is In My Dreams I Hold a Knife by Ashley Winstead. I absolutely love this one, and this goes along with the Paris apartment. All of these characters are absolutely awful, and I was 100% here for it. I loved that all these characters were awful. But these 5 or 6 people go back to their college reunion, and one of their friends was murdered on like one of the last nights of college, and they're trying to figure out what happened and why, and at the end everything is revealed. So good. I had such a good time with this one. I love awful characters. I think awful characters are like my favorite characters. They're just, ugh, I love it so much. The next one is The Martian by Andy Weir. I read all of Andy Weir's books this year, but The Martian is the one that has stuck with me the most. And that's crazy because I have seen this movie twice before I read the book, and the book is very close to the movie, and it didn't even matter. I was on the edge of my seat reading this. I could not look away, even though I had seen the movie and knew exactly what was going to happen. It did not deter from the fact that this was so amazing. I absolutely love The Martian. This was such a good book. This follows this crew who is on Mars, and they think one of their crew, Mark Watney is dead, so they leave him behind, and then it turns out that he is alive and he is trying to survive on Mars by himself before they can get to him. Stressed me the fuck out. And like I said, I had seen the movie 2 times and it still stressed me out. It's stressing me out right now. I am stressed. the last book before I get into my top 3, and that is Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. This is one of the first books that I read this year, and I read it because it was being adapted for HBO Max. I still haven't watched it. I probably will never watch it. But I was just like, oh, I have this book. Amazing, wonderful, beautiful. This follows a group of actors after a big plague that kills 99% of the world, and I just, like, that's it. That's the plot. But I absolutely loved it. Couldn't look away. Read it in one day, probably. Just brilliant. I love this one. I love this one so much. Alright, time for my top 3. The first one is My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix. He's on the list twice. Can you believe it? My Best Friend's Exorcism follows just that. This girl gets lost in the woods and she comes back and they have to exorcise her because she is possessed by a demon. That's the whole plot. It was amazing. It takes place in the 80s. I got a lot of the 80s references. I thought it was so funny. I thought this was amazing. The friendship in this one, for me, was everything. The ending of this one was everything. I absolutely love this book. One of my favorite books I have read ever. My number 2 book of the year is Jar of Hearts by Jennifer Hillier. This book has stayed with me for so long. I literally, Katrina from Katrina Brown was the one who was recommending this one, and I was like, okay. I had like just met Katrina too, but her recommendations are always spot on. This follows a woman who is getting out of prison after a couple years for allegedly killing her best friend when she was 16, and then we go back in time and figure out what is happening. The reveals in this one, what? Like what? These reveals have stayed with me all year. I absolutely love this one. I thought the story was good, but also the writing was good, but also look up trigger warnings for this one because woo, it's a lot, but I absolutely love Jar of Hearts. And then my number 1 favorite book of the year is probably not a surprise if you have been watching any of my other videos literally ever, and that is The Push by Ashley Audrain. I remember listening to this. It was before I think I had the book, but it was still the time in my brain where I could just like listen to an audiobook and like color on my phone or something. I remember we were getting to a lot of the reveals and also why this is called The Push. And I remember staring blankly at my wall like this. And like, what? This book is extremely hard to recommend to people. Like, I don't think I would recommend it to you. Especially if you have kids. Especially if you want kids. If you have a newborn. It's a very difficult book for me to recommend, but it was also hands down my favorite book of the entire year. I guess I love creepy kids and hard relationships with kids, and I have no idea why this worked for me so much, but The Push is one of my favorite books ever, and I cannot wait to reread it. I've been waiting all year to reread it, and it's going to be one of the first books I reread for 2023. Absolutely love this book, and I don't know what kind of person that makes me, but I love The Push by Ashley Audrain. So yeah, these are my favorite sci-fi horror thriller books of 2022. Are any of these books on my list your favorites as well? Please let me know. Thanks for watching my video. That's the end of my end of the year content. So thanks for watching all my videos. Thanks for watching my video. See you in my next one. Bye.
Losing time, I'm fading fast.